Okay, you're welcome. Today we have a very important personality in our studio, an all-rounder, a media personality, and the convener of the Igbo Creative Circle. Yes, a very important person in the creative industry in the Southeast. And today he's going to be talking to us about the challenges we're facing in the music industry in our Igbo. And of course, he's going to prefer solutions because he knows his way around. We have Uche Okoye in the studio with us today. One, you're welcome to our studio.
Thank you.
It feels
for
so
having
good to see
me.
you again.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's really nice to be here.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of what you guys are doing here.
Thank you
at
very
Force of the
thank you
East.
very much. Thank you very much. And we're very glad that you are identifying with this vision of ours.
Yeah, it's our collective effort to ensure that
Exactly.
Igbo is getting to the world stage, and that's why this platform is very important. And I commend every single person behind this project. And I also am proud of you. You know, where we started, we have been to.
We've come a long way.
Yeah. So
and like I said, you know, we have so many challenges in the Southeast, creative wise.
Yeah.
You get, and it's not because of the lack of talent.
yeah.
It's because of the lack of structure. And we've been crying about that, you know, for so many years. And one of the reasons why Voice of the East exists, like the name implies, the voice of the East. We are about giving a platform, a voice to the creatives in the Southeast. So today we're going to be talking about a lot of these things. But before we go further, you know, it's a tradition here that we ask you where you're from, Onye Ebe Igbo, and you know, just maybe a brief introduction by yourself. I've done my part, so
Okay.
maybe just tell us a little about yourself.
All right. First off, my name is Uche Okoye. So I'm Onye Akpo in Agwata local government area of Anambra State.
Right.
So I'm also the managing director of Strong Digital Media,
Okay.
and a convener of Igbo Creative Circle. So I work with a lot of artists in the Southeast. I have been in the media for a while now, you know, trying to see what we can do to salvage this situation, because you know, we need to, yeah, we need to get a lot of things going on in the Southeast. I question on you know, we are like people who are in the masquerade and they are watching masquerade. So we need to get on our, you know, our fittings, put everything right, and start, you know, moving to where everybody is going to, because the world is moving.
Thank you very much, Uche P. Okoye. No, welcome to our studios once again. So can you just tell us a little about your engagement in the music, especially in the music industry, you know, in the music setting in Igbo?
So what I have found very lacking has always been, you know, sort of nurturing or structure, and that has been something that exists elsewhere, and that's why we run elsewhere. So when you do not build structure, no matter how talented, no matter how good you are going to have problems. You're bound to have problems. So you need structure to excel. You need platform to be seen. You need all of these things. So I have been quite in forefront in preaching, in telling people to get involved in building platforms, get involved in the business side of the creative space. Creative space is supposed to be money spinning avenue for a lot of our people if we understand how it works. But we prefer to invest in tangible assets. So typical Igbo man from this side of the world, they prefer to invest in tangible assets. Intangible assets is something that is very important, especially in 21st century. It is important for narrative, it is important for culture and a lot of other things. So we need that right now. And social media is here, it has democratized a lot of things, made it very easier for anyone to operate. So you don't really need the approval of anybody to get on board or start something. So I have been one of those who are, you know, encouraging young people anywhere in, you know, in the part of the East to start doing something, because right now our destinies are in our hands. We don't have anyone to blame but ourselves.
So you don't have to wait for anybody, you just have to start.
Yes.
But then I believe that no matter how much they push on their own, like you said, structure is very important. Which brings me to, you know, this question. What do you think about the music? Like, of course, we might not have that solid structure that is anywhere else. But what do you think, with what we have right now, what do you think, about the music industry in Igbo right now? What do you think?
Ọ dị nnọọ ka ebe ọkụkọ bọsasịrị, ebe bata ịma na idebe ihe dị ka akwụ. If you keep something like apple palm kernel, and you have ọkụkọ na begi, and you left for anywhere, maybe meeting. By the time you come back, the obosasigo. So nke a nọ na west, nke a nọ na east, nke a nọ na north. So kenofia ngwele n'ụzọ. So the thing is that we have not really been able to look at ourselves and said, look, the next 10 years, we need to be here, we need to be there, we need to get this done, we need to get that done. Someone has to do it.
No plan, no
at all.
vision.
So there has to be some level of planning among, you could call them political leaders. It may not necessarily be from political leaders, but leaders across board. When we mention leaders, people tend to think that leaders is just political. We have religious leaders, we have traditional leaders. We also have entertainment leaders. We have business leaders as well.
You're not wrong to say politics, because there's politics in entertainment. So those ones are the very...
No, so but there has to be a way all of them converge or synergize. But essentially, primarily, what we need is leadership at the level of creativity, where people who understand what creativity means can come together and have a roadmap and say,
be in charge.
Yeah, and say, this is what we want to do, this is where we want to get to in the next 10 years.
Because there was something you mentioned, and it has always been a particular worry of mine, and I'm happy you're here so we can talk about it. The average Igbo man does not see music as a business to invest in. And it's just like how football was in those days. They don't take you seriously. Now the footballing industry or whatever it is now big.
It has changed.
And now everybody wants their child to be a footballer.
Yeah.
You get. So it's sad that we are not seeing that in music in Igbo. If an Igbo man is not investing in main market or chanja, he doesn't think there is any other kind of business, and they don't know that, like you said, the creative industry is a money spinning
avenue
industry that needs to be invested in.
Let me just say this: a typical Igbo person is what's the word now? So an average Igbo man understands money, language, and we also successfully we have success bias. There's something called success bias. So what it means is that if I see people who are progressing in a particular sector, there is high tendency that I'm going to just jump into that sector. And that's why if you look at around Igbo land, each community has a specific thing that they are known for. And that is because singular person started that particular journey and is successful. If you have to be successful in that journey. Once you are successful, everybody is going to join you. But if you fail, you become a reference point of failure and nobody's going to start it. So one of the major reasons why we've lacked media in the Southeast, for example, was the failure of Minaj. It became a reference point of every prospective investors in the media. People will tell you, look at Minaj, it failed. So why are you investing?
Nobody's willing to try again.
Exactly. So it also affected every other thing. So who would you point out to be a legend in the music industry from the Southeast that is still relevant today? Most of them are no more, most of them are forgotten, and that has created a very serious vacuum that could have been some sort of link or a linkage between the older generation and the younger generation. So in absence of that linkage, we have seen people without, a sheep without a shepherd, where there's no guidance, there's no, what's the word now? There's no roadmap. There's nothing people look up to, right? So these are the things that people call structure. Because if we have all those things, it will retain talent, it will retain all manner of things, and also attract some in. So we have essentially not really been doing the right thing in terms of being deliberate in investing in some of this. And so what we essentially do is that people who are talented will just come up and express their talent. There are so many talents everywhere.
So you're saying that the reason why, let's take young Igbo music artists for example, will always maybe start from here, and maybe at the time they begin to gain some buzz, they are moving to
because there's nothing sustaining that. There's no structure that can keep them here. So it is so evident,
and it's also because they've not seen anybody, let me say, blow from here and keep blowing and
stay. So there's no structure that propels any artist from here to the global stage, and these are the structure I'm talking about. So it's so natural for them to move, but it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to, for example, look at Burna Boy, for example. Let me mention them. Burna Boy has attained a level where there's no structure in Nigeria that can
stop him,
that can help him blow. He needs to move. So even in Nigeria generally, we don't have that level of structure that can take artists to the peak of his career at the global stage. You can't have somebody like Drake in Nigeria. He can't operate here. We do not have this infrastructure that can sustain people like him. So what I'm saying is that the Southeast lack it in total. So there is levels to this. There are grades. There are grade A, grade B, grade C, D, E, and so on and so forth. So whichever level you get to, there has to be some sort of something that you need to guide you. Especially, if you look at the Southeast, for example, people who are in the streets, the enablers are maybe the young people around you, the studios around, the radio stations. These are primary enablers. Then the second stage, when you move out from there, you have clubs, you have hotels, you have events. That's the second stage. Then the next stage, you need platforms that need to propel you to the global stage, and that is the stage we lack. We don't have platforms that those people who have moved from the grade 1 to from the grade level, that is the 0 level, to the second level, to the third, or whichever way you want to categorize it.
Now, personally, and I believe a lot of people share the same sentiments, we as Igbo people, we are not known to be mediocre in anything we do. As a matter of fact, if we see somebody doing something and we start doing it, we end up doing it better.
Yeah.
You get. So now that you're saying there are grades in the, there are levels to this thing, and from what you're saying, where we are ourselves as Igbo people is we're just beneath. The Voice of the East, what we are about especially is to make sure that we are projecting everything Igbo,
the talent
to the very top. It doesn't necessarily have to be just music, but then we're talking about music today. And our aim for Igbo, for the music industry in Igbo land, is where we do not necessarily, of course, anybody can travel anywhere to sell their music. Of course, you can go to shows, but we do not want a situation where our talents, it's a brain drain, it's a talent drain. Talents are leaving in their droves, they are leaving.
That's what I said.
And it affects us. So what I want to know is, what do we do now as a people? What solution are you preferring as very, very intentional?
There are so many solutions that I will look at. Number one, we have to make Southeast very livable.
Okay.
All right. Making it livable, there are so many factors that will make it livable. The number two, it has to connect directly to the world, because you cannot have people coming to the East, for example, to go to Abuja before coming here. We should be able to move from here to any part of the world. It's very essential.
Exactly.
Because if you have an artist here and he wants to book from here to, say, Los Angeles, the person doesn't have to go to Abuja, to the process of going to Lagos and all of that. The person needs to move from here to Los Angeles. That is number one. That can retain any global artist. Because if, for example, somebody who is popping abroad that wants to go for show in Manchester, from Enugu here, the person can't do it, because he has to go to Abuja and stay maybe a day, then plan his journey, which is very bad. But that aside, that is actually not what we are talking about now. Majorly, what we need to do, apart from making this place livable, is to have enablers. Even if we are going to export talents, it is still good, but let's have enablers that will be able to push these artists from their ground zero to, say, first level, third level, fourth level, and so on and so forth. Because what has stunted growth of many artists from the South is because of lack of these infrastructures. These infrastructures are something like this. You should be able to bring an artist here to express him or herself. You should be able to bring artists on a stage that is very global, something that people not just in this part of the world would see. So there has to be a lot of strategies in order to achieve this. Number one, there has to be collaboration, intentional collaboration. And people who are involved in that ecosystem will need to understand there is need for collaboration. They have to have it at the back of their mind. If Mr. Johnson is dropping a song today, every single person in Enugu needs to be on board, whether you are invited or not. There is no need for you to isolate yourself, whether you are the best, whether you are finding your way, because the idea of this individualistic tendency, the reason why it's stunting the growth is because there is lack. There is lack. So people think that if they can somehow wriggle out from this Enugu, they will become the king. You don't have to be the king and everybody will be serving you. So when you step up and get every other person to step up with you, you have a pool of talents. So wherever you move with these people, you will shake ground, but only you go there will not make enough noise. So that's why we need to understand that factor first.
There is something I've also noticed about entertainment, the entertainment industry in the Southeast. We don't have, I don't want to say we don't have, but I just feel like there is no, let me just say we don't have a culture, an entertainment culture. I'll explain what I mean. Now, if you go to places like Lagos, there are artists that are not necessarily national yet, but they are popping in universities, in Unilag. They are popping. They are making money. They are building a brand for themselves. They have a fan base, a very solid fan base already. And it's because there is a culture in Lagos. Block parties, different things, events being organized from time to time, giving artists a platform. Upcoming artists. I know a lot of upcoming artists in these places that maybe when you come to Enugu now and you start talking about them, somebody will say, but they are popular in these places. And to be very honest, they are popular in the places that matter because there is a platform for them. And we don't have that in
exactly what I said earlier. So we need people who understand how to make money from creative space. See, let me tell you something. This is 2023. Creative space is the money spinning machine. It's like the oil money, the new oil money. And there is a projection that says that Nigeria would likely make $15 billion from media and entertainment in 2025. And if you look at that money, it was a study that was carried out by an institute based in Abuja, in Nigeria, really. So if you look at that money, you ask yourself what percentage of that money would go to eastern part of the country. Money comes into creative space in Nigeria every single day. How much is coming to Southeast? Who, even if it's supposed to come to Southeast, which and who, are likely going to benefit from it? Because there is no existing platform. You mentioned culture in Lagos where there are so many events that are planned. Who are supposed to plan these events? These are the people who invest. It's a business for them. It is intangible business. Like I told you, an average Igbo man does not invest in things that are not tangible. But they are learning. They are beginning to learn. So the reason why there is this platform, for example, whoever that came up with this, the guys that, people behind this Voice of the East, for example, they are not making any money yet. Now, typically, Igbo man would want to see immediate gain in what we are doing right here, and the kind of conversation we are having right now, because they think it is a waste of. Why would they waste their money for over 2 years, 3 years? That's the point, because they do not understand the value of intangible investment.
And long-term
Intangible investment is that you put in money, you are not seeing any gain, you are continue putting in.
Because you have a vision.
Because there is a goal. It's not even about making the money, it's about making impact.
And building something that will last.
The impact, you see countries invest billions of dollars in just in a media company for narrative. Simple. They are not interested in the gain. They want impact. That's what Americans are doing. That's what the UAE is doing. Look at the money they are pumping into football. They are not making any dime from it. They are getting impact. They want impact. They want to be part of global, culture. They want to share that from the Western, world. It is about impact. So our people are here to understand that investing in intangible assets that will create impact is very, very crucial.
Because these other industries where the money is flooding into right now, they had their time when the money was not coming in, when they were just the building process. And so what you're saying is, in our Igbo right now, we have not even started building.
You'll even be shocked that people that participated in the building process in those
of
places
course,
are mostly from our
mostly
people.
from our place. And there was something I wanted to mention. I've had this conversation with people, and they tell you, you're telling them to come back here to invest. What do they get in return? This is wherever they are investing is where they are seeing their money. And while I understand that every businessman wants to put in money and get returns, but then they are failing to see that
the long run.
Yes, they are failing to see that you have to start building here.
You see, when they go there and whatever you invest there, you are going to be, no matter how good you are going to play the second fiddle.
Exactly.
You are going to continue to be a second thought. You are enabling that place to become the only place where investment goes to. I don't want to delve into other sector, but there is a sector that you look at, for example, you see that, for example, tech, let me mention it. You see that any seed funding, any type of funding that comes to Nigeria goes to Lagos, because they have built an ecosystem that enables that to come in. Nothing is happening here, but very few of that fraction that comes to Lagos, comes to Nigeria rather, come to Southeast, right? And that little fraction is not what we need. But if we had built an ecosystem, a very enabling, bubbling environment, we would have gotten much more fraction of that. Now, in the music, for example, Fana Ejebe, food is ready. So our people need to understand that for them to make impact in the industry, future impact, and be a force to reckon with in Africa, we have to look easternward. No matter how much uncomfortable it is, no matter how difficult, it must be the bitter pill that we must swallow. And that's why I'm very proud of what Voice of the East is doing and other ones. They are building something that is sustainable, something that will nurture what we are creating. For the first time, we are having a visual conversation on
about
the problem. So it continues from here. It's not going to be a one-off conversation.
Of course, it gets better. It gets better, and I personally think all hands should be on deck, because we in the Voice of this, we cannot just do it alone. You understand? We cannot see. The creative pool in the Southeast is too big. There are lots of talented and creative people, and like I had mentioned, this continuous exodus of them leaving, it is going to affect us in the long run, because one, we need this talent here. Two, we need this talent to actually make it from here, so that the younger ones that are coming can see, okay, this person made it possible, and it inspires them. All right. So, like you said, the building process is very important, and we need to pay attention to
now,
it.
let me tell you another thing. I want to tell our people to let them not allow themselves to get into the rabbit hole where the Ghanaians or the Cameroonians or the other music industry have gotten themselves into, where they fixated so much on the success that is being recorded in Nigeria, so to say. Especially in the creative sector, you see them. If you go to YouTube, for example, check any Ghanaian content creator around the creativity, there's no way that person would not mention Nigeria. And it's becoming something that is very popular among the people of the East. We mention Lagos every now and then. So Lagos success is a very important story. That success is a collective effort, but we have to leave we have to we must swallow that bitter pill and abandon it and focus in building ourselves. How? Number one, we have to recognize ourselves as being important. Because if you do not appreciate yourself and place yourself at a very higher pedestal, nobody will appreciate you. Our people have really not, like I mentioned earlier, so you see something that is happening in the East, people don't pay attention to it. But if it's happening elsewhere, they're going to embrace it. So we need to begin to see ourselves as very important. Whatever we do, we must appreciate it. Take it as a glorious, the best thing after sliced bread. I don't know if sliced bread is the best thing ever, but if we can develop that attitude and begin to nurture what we have. If we have, for example, a comedian who is operating from Ababa or from Wani, we should be able to see that person as the best comedian in the world. We should be able to support the person. If you have an artist who is coming from anywhere,
trumpet, yeah?
Let us see that artist as somebody that is very too good.
Okay. So what you're saying in essence is, while Lagos is a good yardstick to measure whatever success everybody wants to have,
we must ignore it.
Because of course the industry there is big, so you can always use it to make. But we need to just remove our eyes from there and focus on the fact that we need to build something.
Yes, because the constant bickering and constant reference to that will make you lose sight to what you are doing.
It's like crying over spilled milk. We're always crying about it.
Yeah. So like you're saying that, Lagos is in control, Lagos is that. Look, all these things, people who are there cannot allow you, to go and build your own. That's why they will just give you small opportunity to excel. But if they shut down their door, it will make you go and look and build. But are you going to wait till they shut it down before you go and build? The right time to build is now. Yes. So what we are doing, what every other person is doing in the eastern part of the country, if we bind these efforts together, we're going to achieve a great success. Now, if you look at the population of the eastern region, for example, it has one of the highest purchasing power, the highest population density, highest number of young people. Look at the universities everywhere. So we have vibrant bloods.
We're going to come back
who
to
can do a lot.
But before we go on a short break, I want you to be specific on these players that you want to put their hands on deck, that you want to invest. I want you to. I'm not talking about mentioning names. People like the kind of players that should come into this industry and make it viable.
Yeah.
I want you to specifically mention.
Okay, we need policy makers, right? The policy makers, we have state assembly, for example. They need to put on policy in collaboration with the entertainers, based on what they would need. For example, there has to be policy that protects the interests of artists. There has to be creatives. There has to be a policy that protects indigenous talent. There has to be policy that makes it very compulsory for people to pay services that are delivered to them. So these things are going to give creatives soft landing.
Create a conducive environment.
Then the second one will be an incentive. They need to incentivize people who are investing in the creative space. People who are building art studio, for example, need to be incentivized, soft landing in terms of taxation. People who are building studio are going to be incentivized. People who are building any form of thing that will encourage creativity, and they need to be incentivized. Then people who are building or who have interest in developing talents, like they do in America, for example. If, for example, I decide to sponsor talents, I get tax heaven or tax relief, sort of. It happens in America. We should be able to bring that type of policy here, where we bring in people, encourage people to invest in talent by removing or reducing the tax load on them.
Because there's a lot that investing in talent would help in the South.
A lot. It will reduce insecurity. Let me even go there.
Yes.
It will reduce the insecurity and make this place livable. It will grant young, vibrant, because the young people who are in that teenage peak time, they have a lot of energy.
Yes.
And if you do not direct these energies into the right path, that's why if you check Western country, for example, they have different type of sports. If you say that no skating rather, not skate, skates, but they have skate.
Yeah.
They organize competition. If you think you are good with extreme sports like cycling in the bush or any type of, they create, avenue and support it and sponsor these things. So if you are good with boxing, they create sporting activity around it and make it very, desirable for people to come and watch. Even if it doesn't have all of that support, you see people putting in money for young people to be busy.
Yes.
The essence is to reduce youth restiveness, reduce insecurity, and also put that energy into good use. So we need to become, get creative. We are not creative as a people in this part of the country. So most everything is so cliche. People just, gather and share budget and share money and go and build road, build physical infrastructure.
Out of the box.
So nobody's thinking in this direction. We have sports. Sports is a very big source of revenue right now for South America, for example. We are not investing in it. We have now entertainment that is, almost on our doorstep. We are not investing in it.
As it stands, entertainment is like one of the biggest exports from Nigeria, and we need most of our talents from the Southeast to be part of that.
Yes. So that's what I'm saying. So we need to begin to, like I mentioned, you said, what are those specifics? Who am I going to be involving? Now, when you get the policies right, you start attracting the right people. It's just like the sugar and ants analogy. If you put sugar here, before you know it, it will attract the ants naturally. So put the right policy and get these people incentivized. They are going to come in and invest in it.
Thank you very much. We're going to go on a short break, and then when we return, we'll talk a lot more about these things, and then we'll round up. Stay with us. All right, you're welcome back. It's been a very beautiful interactive session with Uche Okoye, and we've dissected a few things, and there's a lot more to talk about, but then we hope to have you in our studio some other time for us to talk more about this, because we're about to round up. We don't have enough time on our hands. But before you go, we have a few more questions to ask you. So we've talked about how there is no structure, how we need key players to come in and make the creative industry in the Southeast viable. So we don't continue to have this brain drain, talent drain, creative drain, because the more we have talents leaving, it's good. It's fine. I mean, the Igbo man has always been known to be a sojourner, travel, go and establish great things. But if we continue to have our best talents leave, it is going to affect us, on the long run. So we've talked about all of these things, and we really hope that the people in the are listening to us and are going to take action. Of course, it's a role that everybody has to play. Man, on one day, there are people who have decisive roles to play, and they need to come in. So we've already mentioned that. But then, regardless of all of the things, all of the challenges we're facing, the lack of structure, all of the things we've talked about, there are still people in the Southeast, talents in the Southeast, young talents in the Southeast that are still doing it regardless. True. From music, from comedy, everywhere. They are still pushing, despite the fact that, and I kudos to them, because it's not easy to not have a viable structure and still trying to thrive.
Yeah.
Do you understand? So we're still talking about music. So what talents, it doesn't have to be a particular number, but then maybe a few talents that you feel like people should watch out for from the Southeast. Like if you had $1 million now to put in, to invest in a couple of artists, what are those people you could possibly, I know there are a lot. I know there are thousands of them, but just mention a few.
So this is where you put me on a spot now, because
we know we're putting you on the spot.
I literally work with almost every creative person in the space. So I don't really have, because there are a bundle of talents.
Whoever is out there watching and listening, just know that if he does not mention your name, it doesn't mean he does not reach you.
No, okay. The thing is this. When it comes to name dropping, it's not necessarily about what I think. The truth is that there are so many talents. They lead to so much. You know, when I look at them and I ask myself, why are they not getting where they are or where they should be? And I begin to see the reasons why they are not doing that. And that's what we've talked about. So there are a couple of artists, you know, creatives in comedy, in movies, and there's so many of them. I interact with them on a daily basis. So I know that it is something that if we begin to list, we may not exhaust it. But I can tell you that there are a couple of artists that have found their way, you know, at the national stage, you know, somehow, you know, step out from Enugu. But I want them to understand that it is not an escape way. It's not like, it's not the peak of the career, or it's just a step, just a singular step. Because so many of them think that once they get popular, they are bound to leave Enugu. It doesn't work that way, because what we have talked about, or what we've discussed or analyzed, is that Enugu has to be or Eastern Nigeria, not just Enugu. You know, we have Owerri, we have Oka, we have Abakiliki, we have Omahia, we have Aba, and all other places. We have Onitsha. These are places retain
markets, actually.
A lot of artists. We have Asaba, you know. So what we need right now is to look at the people who are doing whatever they are doing in different sectors. In comedy, we have SP, Uncle SP, we have a lot of them, you know. I don't want to start mentioning them. In music, we have Aguero Banks, we have Ugochi, we have Jerick, we have you yourself. You also do music. So we have a lot of people. We have Apete. In other sectors too, in arts, we have a lot of people that I have come across too. So it's not about mentioning name. Like I said, it's about building a sustainable environment that will make these talents thrive. Makana imanas now anyukoma merono koja bofufu. And for us to achieve this thing, I kwesịrị ịghọta na ọ bụrụ ife eji ofu okwu wele agba, ọ bụrụ egwu eji ofu okwu wele agba. It's something that you have to do with so much grit, so much. Because it's not something that you put in money today and expect return tomorrow. You gotta go. Because now as Gafia, you know, that mercantile mentality is there. So we always want to see the result. Everybody wants to see result, but it must not be instantaneous. Just like buying and selling. Buying and selling is one of the easiest things to do. If you buy, you get a buyer, you sell it, right? And make your gain. Maybe you put 10 naira, 20 naira, depending on your gain. That is the most simplest thing to do. But in this type of thing, like creative space, there's not, you buy and buy and buy and buy. You are not for a whole year, you're not making money. But once you start making money, you will never ever, in fact, you become an institution that you become a policy maker, opinion molder, whatever you want to happen in the society. People have to consult you before that happens. And that is the power of narrative. And it can only be achieved where you have a platform, where you have a structure, where you have, things like what we are doing.
That was a very diplomatic answer, because I saw you were trying to not, and that was very good. So we're heading to the end of this show. But one more another question. Labels, music labels. We've seen how a lot of things are happening right now on social media. About labels, artists, creatives, and you mentioned something about laws protecting creatives, because it is important that creatives are protected. It's part of the whole building of a structure thing, because it's not about being talented or wanting to blow or wanting to succeed. It's about, whatever you're doing, are you doing it with that mindset that in the end, all of this hard work you're putting in is going to pay off. In the end, nobody's going to try to shortchange you, as long as of course, you live, to your own part. Sorry, I was going to ask, the labels. There are a lot of labels in the Southeast, and particularly from my experience, I know that a lot of these people, no matter how good their intentions are, oh yes, I want to start a label, I want to make somebody, help somebody, they don't understand the business.
Okay.
So these labels, what do you have to say to somebody out there now who's interested in building something, especially a music label for artists, but does not know how to go about it? What do you think this person needs to do?
Okay, the person has to come for consultation, and it's something that you paid for. Okay, it's not something that is given for free. But let me just give you something. I don't think how many record. I think maybe you just can say we have just one record label in Nigeria. Now, to be honest, because for you to talk about record label entails a lot of things. And I doubt there are any record label, maybe outside Mavin. That's the only record label that I know. Or maybe Chocolate City, but Mavin, meets the standard.
YBN is doing good.
No. So we have you need to have a structure. For instance, you need to have a structure within your record label. You need to have A&R, have all of these things. These things are important. But you need to also create, like I said, these are things that shouldn't be given out for free, So, but any record label that you see, people who sign artists, quote unquote, that call themselves record, the truth is that they are not record label. They think that money can buy everything. If money can buy everything, Davido or any artist you can mention that is already known should be dropping hits records. But some of these people drop flop songs, right? So dropping and becoming very popular and dropping hit song, it's not about money. So our people have misconstrued this for a long time. That's why they are making money. Majority of the money they make in Lagos in that sector is coming from here. And people make money and gather it and go and give them in exchange of nothing. What has come out of it? Nothing. Because we do not understand that music is an art. It's not something, it's not a product.
Art,
it's not something you go and buy and sell. It's an art. So there is ways you nurture arts. You make it desirable. You position it in such a way that people are going to scream when they see it. People are going to like it. Because you will ask yourself, what is this thing that people like about this?
A lot of them do not understand that it's just like, take for example, you sign an artist.
Yeah.
And as much as that artist is your investment, it's your business, but then you're forgetting that the artist is a human being that is creating art, and you're not that part of them being a human being, that part of them being a creative that creates. You're ignoring it. All you just want is for them to put out music.
So this is where I'm coming now. There are so many. I've discussed this with somebody, and I was telling the person that there's a huge, sort of a parallel line, that demarcates creatives and non-creatives. I think there is even a science that that describes this. I don't know how correct that is, but people who are creative have a way of thinking from people who are not creative or who are logical or something. Now, people who are creative are mostly very emotional. They go through so much emotional roller coaster, and because of their creativity, they somehow bury themselves in that creative world space. And this is something people who are not creative don't really appreciate, understand it. So, because if you appreciate it, understand how this thing works, you'll be able to put yourself in the shoes of these creatives. And that's why so many of them go into depression, so many of them go into become even suicidal, because of that lack of understanding. Nobody hears them, nobody knows what they are going through. Now, the problem here is this. In Nigeria, almost everybody is mentally unstable. That's a fact. And we do not have an institution that check these things. There has to be a routine check of every single person, sort of care, especially when it comes to your mental health. It does not exist. So you see somebody, you are harassing the person or you are forcing the person to go against his creative process or creative way, because you just want, it affects the creative process. You just want him to be what you think in your head. It doesn't work that way.
Not what you saw this person for and brought him for.
Because there is no professional eye that's be able to spot the creative. Because when you see
all of that boils down to structure, really.
Exactly, because there are people who are sociologists, are perfect sociologists, are very good at identifying what somebody can actually fit in, the kind of clothes you can wear, the kind of voice or sound you should be able to. These are the things that when they look at you, and even when they talk to you as a creative, you'll be like, yeah, you are right. Do you understand? Because the person see through you, you understand what you can do. And we have almost very few of them here. So if we have people who have that type of skill and employ them in this sector, they'll be able to interface with these creatives, know where their challenges are coming from, so and they'll be able to communicate it well.
So basically, you're trying to say for people who want to, we're talking specifically about labels, who want to start labels in Igbo, they should understand that it's not about I want to sign you, put
your
pen
talent,
to paper,
yes.
and then start
it's not about that.
money.
No, that is even so. It's because in this world of entertainment, talent. People say talent is everything, but I tell them talent is just there.
There's so many talents.
Yeah, talent is not everything. Talent is not even up to 10%. So you need to have talent for you to be recognized. But there are other things are going to be built by the team. Now, if, for example, there are people who excel, extraordinary people who excel on their own, but no matter how you do it, you need people around you. You need people that will support you in one way or the other, because you can't do it alone, you break down. There is also the question of data. This is a different conversation. In fact, there should be a conversation topic on data. We don't have any source of data in the Southeast on anything. On anything. So there is nothing you ask for example, and you ask explicit information on the number, that you get everything in the South. It does not exist. And this is because the people, the data analysts, the people who are supposed to be involved in all of this, is still part of intangible investment. There has to be a data mining company or data company, a company that is designed to procure data on anything, the consumption, expenditure, on anything at all. Corporate bodies invest in all of this, and they spend huge amounts of money investing in data analysis, analysts invest in data sourcing and all of that.
Because
for what?
Because if actually we have data, we would understand that the number of young people. Because I always like to refer to the young people. The universities in the South, young people.
What is their number?
We need to know, because
we don't. How many number of students are graduating from these students every year?
While entertainment, music can be for everybody.
Yeah.
We know that
majority,
the younger ones are actually the target audience, the bigger target audience. So we are not even paying that. That was like when I mentioned something about block parties, university gigs, and all of that. It's not very It's not common here. Do you understand? And that is the reason why we have artists in the South that are struggling.
Yeah, they're supposed to be here and make a living. And the
numbers are here.
Yeah, we have to. That's the point. Because if you approach any brand, for example, and seek for sponsorship, they're gonna ask you number, and that's where a lot of them don't. So those who have been doing something, do they have number? The answer is no. So there is this culture of anyhowness. And this is because there is no standard. For example, people have been doing things. Who is talking about what people have done to know if they are doing it right or wrong? Because there has to be standard. You have to do certain things and get to a stage whereby people are going to critique it, right? And the criticism is not going to be destructive. It's going to be in such a way that people who are going to do the next or going to copy are going to improve by adding things like what we are doing here, for example. It has to be subject to criticism. So when it is criticized,
it gets better.
People, it's not just us getting better. People are going to learn from our mistake and do better. Yes. That is how creative works. So for example, somebody drops a project, EP or body of work, right? And there will be people who are going to talk about it from A to Z. Say number one track is this and that and this. The number two is this and that. People are listening. Now, at the end of the day, people who are going to make their own project are going to look at your critics.
And that's how it keeps getting
better. And improve on what you have recommended in your criticism. So these are the things that we lack, right? So we need to start looking at that. So if we want to improve our sector, I've mentioned the other one that is very important. Now, getting the record label and all these platforms, it still require the resources, that's the human resources. So we need the human, people, the people who are going to run it, and it has to be people who are qualified or people who understand how it works, not family business, not something you give to your brother or your friend. If you give it to your brother, he will run it down if he doesn't understand the business, especially if it has to do with creativity. Creativity is something that is special. You don't need to hire somebody that is from your blood. You can hire somebody from Kenya. You can hire somebody from Cameroon.
They know what it takes to.
You just need to get the results.
Thank you. Okay. So finally, here at the Voice of the East, we run a label. It's pretty much a budding label. It's still coming up. But then our vision is very simple.
Okay.
We're giving a platform to artists from Igbo, because we believe that there are a lot of talents here.
Yeah.
And we're doing our bit to give them a platform. We're not necessarily signing anybody just yet.
Okay.
But then we're doing our best. There's a studio here. People come here to record for free.
Wow. Interesting.
They record for free and they go their way. We're currently hosting a competition.
That's good.
Where we bring artists to come and battle. And the end goal is for them to get a chance to feature on an album that we're looking at putting out in a couple of months. Sounds from the East. And we started the battle already, and we've been able to get very fantastic. How
has been the reception?
Great. We've been able to get very talented people to come to the studio and battle, So this is what we're doing with East Side Music. We hope to do more. We will do more, So what do you think we could do better?
Okay. Well, let me start first from the artists themselves. If you're listening to me and you are an up and coming artist, there's something you need to start doing. Get educated. You see, even if you drop from school and focus to music, you still need to educate yourself on the music intelligence, the things that make up music, being a music artist. Because there are many artists you meet, you ask them about music, they don't understand it. So you need to look into what it means to be a music artist. You start building your brand, get to work. You work very hard. Every information is online. You can check every type of information you want online. There are people who are willing to give you all these things. Now, coming to the East Side, I am very proud of what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
So this is the platform I'm talking about. Imagine having this type of platform, and of course, the studio where someone can record for free. Do you know what that means? That is absolutely incredible, because a lot of young people don't have the resources. Some of them, their parents are not in support of their dream. They don't have any persons funding them.
No encouragement.
So this is a perfect place where they can actually leverage on. So I see it as a very good initiative. It's something that should be supported. Now, in getting better, you see, if it require that you bring somebody from Kano or from Cameroon or from India who has the right skill, requisite skill required to get things done, do it, because what we want is results. So that's the number one thing I'm going to advise, because when you want to grow, you have to learn from people. You have to look beyond any form of prejudice. Okay, that's number one. Then number two, get people who understand this. The business side of the music. Integrate yourself in this society, in the community. Really, I'm sure there are communities in Enugu, from secondary school to university. There are communities. The record label, the stakeholders in the record label need to integrate themselves within the community first. Let them be known among young people here. Let it be a household name. The same way people know Melvin. let them know about it. So it's going to be a brand on its own. You know, some of these record label you were mentioning, is called them record label. Most of them are not known. You can be who doesn't know Universal Record? Who doesn't know Columbia Records? These are known record label, right? Warner Music. Everybody knows these things. They are known. There are brands everywhere. So you have to make your brand very ubiquitous. It should be everywhere. You know, let people associate it with music. You know, so that is one of the, you know, things that you guys need to do. And I'm hearing it for the first time, so people need to hear about it more. Then get the capable hands. You already know what it means to force artists or creative to go against his or her wish. Yeah. So you know it's going to dampen or go against his or her creative process. So there has to be a free hand for operation, for people to operate. Then ultimately, artists need to get trained, or creatives. You need to get trained. That's why I talked about education, vocal training, you know, artist training. You need all of these things to become a proper artist, because for you to train yourself as an artist, you need somebody who understands what it means to build artists, to give you guidelines. You know, anybody that knows everything is an idiot. You know, permit my language, but you have to be teachable, right? You have to be teachable. So get people who can teach, who can nurture, who can, you know, guide these people wherever they can come from, but let them be the best people.
Thank you.
And I can tell you, I can get the right result.
We really do hope to see you around a lot more. And thank you so much for coming to our studio.
Thank you for having me.
P. Okoye. All right. That was a very interesting and very interactive session with Uche Okoye, the convener of the Igbo Creative Circle, and of course a very big media personality. And he has been able to share, you know, insights on how we can do better in Igbo when it comes to the music industry. And we really do hope that all of these solutions that have been preferred will be looked into, and then we can build something really, really great in Igbo.